Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining ServiceDesk Plus Masterclass 2024 Episode 2. So, the topic that we will be looking into today is setting up a powerful request fulfillment engine with ServiceDesk Plus. And myself, I am Vinith, and I am working with Manage Engine for more than half a decade now. And I have done several implementations, and we have provided more suggestions to organizations on best practices over ITSM. Now, the agenda of this entire session would be given here. So, we'll be defining the service categories according to your business requirements. We will also check how to customize the service request template using a drag and drop canvas from Service Displays. And we will also give you a knowledge of adding dynamic questions using additional fields and resource information. And finally, we will also show you some automations regarding the approvals, SLAs, task, and form rules. Moving on, we will be looking into the uh, topic. Zilker is the organization that will be taking as an example throughout this session. And Zilker is a retail giant who have a strong holding in both shipping and e-commerce. So they are looking to simplify the process of requesting software installation for their employees. So previously, Zilker employees had some like administrators had to personally go to them, check what is the software that they need, and then try to like install the software. And they are currently managing their software in an Excel sheet due to the absence of streamlined information. Now, these installation requests were completed whenever the employees requested it. Like they had some improper SLAs configured, and they don't know which would be the right priority software that has to be installed for the users. So, to fill all these gaps, we will be looking into service displays and see how best that resolves all these gaps. Now, let's say how service displays help Zilker. So, what we are going to uh, fix in this specific organization is we will define the proper service categories under the right software offerings so that the end users can select the right software and they can provide installation. Also, we will have some service templates that we will provide for the user so that it will be easier for them to choose the right information which the end technician can select and provide the right software. We will also give some dynamic forms which will change based on the options that they select and then provide the right installations. Now, we also have some automations in place which will define the SLAs and approvals when the request is created. So these are the topics that we will handle within ServiceDesk Plus. Now, we will also look into how to define service categories and customize service templates. As an administrator, you might be wondering, how do I define a service category? So there is a 6-step process which you can follow to define a service category within your organization. So the first step would be to understanding your organization goals and objectives. Consider how IT services and resources can support these goals, and this understanding will guide the selection and definition of services in your catalog. Like you will have to see what are the objectives that an IT services will help to achieve the organization goals. So that would be the first step. And the second step would be to gather the stakeholders' input. You will have to engage with your key stakeholders, including your department heads, managers, employees, to understand their needs and expectations. Based on that, you can also define the service categories. And the third step would be to reviewing your existing documentations. You might already have a list of services that is already being provided to the users. So make sure to document them. It will be easier for you to define service catalog for your existing services. That would be more easier and faster approach. And the fourth step would be to inventory the existing services. As said, it is not only about documenting your existing services, you will have to inventory them. So this includes the hardware, software, applications, network resources, software services, and other IT related offerings. Inventory all of them together. And finally, as a fifth step, categorize the services. So just by giving users a bunch ideas of services, categorize them into smaller groups so that it is easier for the user to choose from which category and what services that they will raise a request. Now we have the services ready. Now the sixth final point would be to prioritize the services. Prioritize the identified services based on the importance to organization. So this will impact the user's productivity. Consider which services are critical and which are more routine or auxiliary. So based on that, you will define the priority, and this will give you an idea to calculate the SLA. So that is how we define the service category. Now moving on from there, let's see how we can define a service category within ServiceDesk Plus. How can we customize and request template? What is the cost association? What is the meaning of this user group and technician group, and the advanced portal configuration? This is ServiceDesk Plus, and I'm using the latest version, which is 14.720, and it is an enterprise edition. It's a complete suite. I have all the modules together. Now, first thing that we will have to do is define the service category. I have navigated to the admin tab, and over here we can do a quick search of service category. So there will be some default categories that are available within the application. When you install it, it comes up with basic service categories that are defaultly available for all the organization. Now, once you have the service categories, you will define the service catalog. So under each and every category, you can define a template. In the sense, let's say if you have a service category called application management, under application management, you can define 2 or 3 templates like software installation, software uninstallation, license request, active license. So you can create multiple templates and publish it to the users. Let's see how do we add a template within ServiceDesk Plus. So if you click on add service, it will come up with a console to create a new template. You will have very simple options over here to drag and drop a necessary field that you want and create a service request template that you need. And you might be wondering, how do we define these sections? How do we classify what is necessary for the user and what is necessary for the technician? So the idea here is to define 2 or 3 different sections. So the first section would be to define it for the IT team, which means the default fields like status, site, technician, priority, group. These are unwanted fields for an end user. He or she doesn't want to know what is the priority of the request, what is the group, who will be the technician handling this case. So we do not want such information to be shown to an end user. So what we can do is we can create a section specifically for the IT team and create one more section for the end user to add the details. So as you see, we can click on the add button and we can drag and drop a column. So under the IT team, I have added a new section. You can edit the section, change the name, software details. As we are developing a software installation request template, so we will add software details, save it. Now, as an administrator, you know what are the basic entities that you wanted to collect for a new software installation from a user. So let's say if it is going to be an list of softwares, like it is going to be licensed software, unlicensed software. So you will have to show them a list of software somehow so that they can select. So we can drag and drop a pick list in which you can show all your softwares. Either you can go with adding it one by one, or we do have an option of adding bulk entries of software using an XLS file, or you can just copy paste the entire list of softwares that you have within the organization. So just for example, I'm going to add 2 or 3 softwares. Let's say Adobe, Outlook, Chrome. So we will add those softwares over here. So it is already added as a pick list. You can check mark here as requester can set and requester can view. So this has to be visible to the user so that they can check the right option and then raise a request. In case if you want these fields to be mandated at the point of request creation, yes, you can mark it as mandatory. Now save it. As simple as that, you have added a field and you have made it as a pick list. Now I wanted to see whether it is a licensed or non-licensed type. So I want one more field. So I can drag and drop one more pick list. So I will add the column or add the field name as license type and give it as yes or no question. And again, it has to be visible to the user and they have to set some value. I'm saving it. Now the additional field is added. I want this particular section to be somewhat more visible to the user, like more aesthetic. So I will change it to a double column. And in case if you need more values to be added, you can add it in these columns. You can drag and drop whatever options that you want and you can show it to the user. We also have more options over here. You can customize the entire section on what the font should be, what would be the size of the font, what is the background color, like we can change the background color of that section's topic, and you can also change the background color of the section, the entire section itself. So you can define it because for users, it has to be more approachable so that they can click and choose the right options that they need. Now, this is how we define an entire template. So you can define 2 different sections, one for the IT team, one for the user, and you can define the subject and description as more details field. The user might not be satisfied with whatever fields that you have provided. You know how users enter the details. So we can give them a section just to add more details like subject and description, and they can add whatever additional comments that they have. So apart from these selection, we have some other fields which are available with service request. So let's quickly jump on another form in which we have all the details filled in and how a catalog or a template looks like after all the configuration. So we are going to take employee onboarding template for that example. So you can see we have one section for employee details, which is directly filled in by the user who would be an human resource employee. So that person will enter the details of the employee who is going to be onboarded. The ticket details, which is nothing but the status category and priority. The ERP access details. If it is going to be an onboarding a new user, that user has to be provided with specific accesses. So those access details are provided, associations, ticket description, and more description that they wanted to have. And finally, you will have a resource section. So in ServiceDesk Plus, you have two different templates. One template is for service and the other template is for incident. So let's quickly jump to the admin tab once again. Let's search for incident template. So you will find all the incident templates listed over here. I'm just taking the default request template as a sample to showcase. So here you can see there is no resource section available. So this is the main difference between an incident template and a service template. Resource section is specifically designed only for service requests. Why is that? When you define a service request, it involves cost. When it comes to an incident template, it is an issue reported by an user and you do not have any cost involved. It's a disruption for the employee or the user. So we will have to immediately resolve it and fix the issue. Whereas when it comes to a service request, there is a cost involved for whatever service that you're going to provide to the user. So you are providing some sort of service to the user to enhance their productivity. So that is where resource section comes into play. Let's quickly see how it works. Resource section is a list of questions that you can show to the user and give them options to select, and you can also show them what is the cost involved with that service. So let's do an example here. Let's try with a checkbox. You can add any question that you want. Let's say if it is going to be hardware. So you have two options here. Either you can enable cost and show that resource, or you can disable the cost. So immediately the cost value over here will go away. And you can also enable image. So you can just directly drag and drop an image over here. So that image will be shown to the user to choose, because images are more uh, easier for the users to understand. Or if you want, you can go with normal text values as well. So once you have an image resource question added, it will look something like this. So what we have done here is, in an onboarding form, you have added the hardware and software details. For an user, the accessories that has to be provided, the software that has to be installed, and whatever other accessories, like if you are going to provide a mobile phone to the user, you have given what are the options that are available. Now, you might also be wondering, how do we make this form more dynamic? Like, you cannot show all the options directly to the user, right? We will have to restrict the options, and based on selections, you will have to show and hide fields. Let's see how do we do that. Let's see that shortly. Just before that, we will also need to publish this template to the user. You know that onboarding, offboarding template should not be published to all the users. It is only for the human resource employees. It is not like an IT guy is going to raise in request or an end user is going to raise in onboarding request. It has to be published only to certain group of users. Now we have two selections here. One is for support group and the other one is for user group. The support group is nothing but grouping technicians together, and user group is nothing but using grouping the users together. Now let's go back to the admin tab and have a look at what does these group do. Support group, as I said, you can create a new group by adding few technicians and choosing a owner. It is nothing but if a specific technician is skilled with handling specific issues. Let's say I am a technician, I am versatile with handling software issues. Then what I can do is I can create a separate group called as software issues, choose one or two technicians, keep me as an owner, and assign requests related to software issues to this group. So this is how a support group works. When you come back to the user group, it has the same set of options. The only difference is that here only the users are shown, and you have criteria to define or to segregate users, like based on department name, job title, primary email address, or site. So you can choose a department name. So our goal here is to show that onboarding template only to the human resource employees. So we can see if the department HR is available. Let's take a look at the preview. So these are the only users who belong to that specific department. So what we can do is we can create a new group, save it. Once it is done, go back to the template. If you scroll down to the bottom, you have this option, show to requested. If this option is not enabled, the template will not be shown to the end user in their self-service portal. So make sure that if you have configured the entire template and if you are done with all the settings, then you will have to enable this option so that it is shown to the user. And from there, further to narrow down, you have an option of selecting the groups. So let's refresh this page once so that the group that we created will be shown here. So you have the HR3 and save the configuration. So this template is visible now only to the person who belongs to this specific group. Now let's also take a look at how does this exactly looks at the user end. Over here, I have logged in as a normal user who is not a technician, who doesn't have complete rights over the application. It's an end user. So once you have a service catalog published, it looks something like this. So you will navigate to employee administration. You find the employee onboarding. You see that we do not have all the fields that are available within the template. You only have the option to choose what is the work location. Let's say I'm going to choose the work location as London. Now you will find the accessories and softwares that are available for London work location employees. Now if I change something to Dallas, again you see a modification is done. How is this performed? How do we dynamically change the form is something that we are going to look shortly here. Now we have something within the application called as field and form rules. So we have three subtypes under field and form rules: on form load, on field change, on form submit. On form load is nothing but when you load the form, if you wanted to hide certain fields, disable fields, mandate fields, then you can perform all those actions on form load, at which is at the point of request creation. Let's say if I click on new rule, you do not have to provide any criteria. So we have 13 different options here. You can click on hide fields, show fields, disable fields. So you can choose any field that you wanted to disable at the point of request creation. And you also define whether it is going to be on create, on edit, and does it apply to all the users, or is it going to be only technicians or requesters? So this gives you one flexibility of dynamically changing the form based on your requirement. So the second subtype under field and form rules is on field change. So on form load is how the form looks to the end user. On field change is when you change something within the application, like within the template. Let's say if I change the department to so and so, or let's say if I change the user or asset or specific field value, then based on that, I can trigger action. Let's say if I'm going to choose if category is change types, then disable a field, disable description. So this is how we can change the form dynamically based on your requirement. Again, this comes with three different options of either to go with on create or edit, on create alone or on edit alone. Again, it applies to all the three different variations. The same goes with on form submit. On form submit is nothing but at the point of submitting the request. So if we jump back to the user profile, you see this add request. So when I click on add request, if I wanted to perform some actions, like I wanted to show a pop-up to the user, or let's say I wanted the user to read a specific disclaimer action, or I want the user to add a specific attachment to this particular request, then we can show a pop-up and ask them to attach it. So all those actions are possible using on-form submit. So at the point of submission of a request, I am doing an automation in the backend. So that is what this on-form submit comes into play. So now, so far what we have seen is we have created or understood how a template can be configured within ServiceDesk Plus and how it is published to the end user. Now, once it is published to the end user, that is when the user accesses the portal and when they open a specific form, it comes up with all the details and they can fill in. After the request creation, how do I control it? What is the privileges that I provide to the requester on handling this template? So all those options are controlled under a specific feature. If you navigate to the admin tab, search for advanced portal settings, you will find a number of options here. So it comes up with general, requester, technician, approval. So general option is very related to what is your currency, your what would be the first day of week, all those options. Now to concentrate only on service catalog related options, you can define service catalog cost information visibility. So even though if you have cost values configured within the template, if you want to show them the total value of what the user has selected, you can define it over here. You have the control of showing it to the requesters or hiding it from the requesters. So if it is shown to the requesters, it is also shown to the approvers. We will also take a look at what is the approval and how the workflow of the approval goes. We will shortly look into it. So though the flexibility of showing the cost or disabling the cost information is configured over here. Now you also have another important option here, showing both incident and service templates together. So right now, when I access the catalog, let me go back to the user profile. So if the user clicks on the service catalog, so you will see a complete catalog together with incident and service request. It is not only showing the sorry, the service request alone. It comes along with both incident together. So you will find the incident templates and the service templates combined together. If you don't want them to be shown together, then you can make the change over here. And if we jump on to the requester side, you have more options here. The main option that focuses for the service catalog is requesters can reopen their request. Do the request, the end user is allowed to reopen the request or not? Do we allow the requesters to close their request or not? All these are available over here. So based on your organization needs, you can select the options. Now, end of the day, the self-service portal, the portal that is shown to the user has to be configured by the administrator. So that customization is available over here. So you can go with customizing your self-service portal. You can choose any one of the widgets available and you can directly publish them. If you want, you can create an entire catalog based on your requirement and you can publish it to the end user. Added to that, when an end user accesses the self-service portal, if you want to show them on a how-to video or a small tour of how to utilize the self-service portal, you can customize the video of showing a small user guide. You can do it over here. So you can just add some images and it will show as a complete video for the user. Now, coming back to the topics, we have customized or we have created the service categories. We have completed the request template customization. You have seen the service cost, and we have also learned what is the user group and the technician group. And we have also looked into the advanced portal settings of how to restrict and how to make the SSP, the self-service portal, more flexible to the users. The next topic that we're going to see is resource question info. We saw all these aspects. Now the next topic is automate routine everyday tasks. So now we have the template ready. We have all the field and form rules. The form is more dynamic. Now the next thing is to configure the related task approvals and service level agreements. So we will see how ServiceDesk Plus helps you in automating all these aspects. As I told you earlier, ServiceDesk Plus has two different templates. One is incident and the other is service. So I'm coming back to the admin, search for incident template. So you will find all the incident templates and we are already in a service template over here. You have a tab called as workflow. So this tab is going to show you what is the approval configuration, what is the service level agreement, what are the task dependencies for this request. Now first let's deal with this approval workflow. In ServiceDesk Plus, incident template does not come along with an approval workflow. So if you jump to a default request, if you click on workflow, you only have very limited options because when you are raising an incident request, it has to be resolved as early as possible. It doesn't have to go through an approval and there is no cost involved within that process. So the incident template will not come with an approval cycle. Whereas in a service template, you will have an approval workflow because there is a cost involved. It has to go through certain superior heads so that they can approve whatever service is requested by the user. Based on your organization needs, you can configure up to 5 level of approvals and you can add n number of people with every single level. And you also have a flexibility of choosing, is it going to be all the approvers or is it going to be first approvers action? And we are also giving you an automation of once the request is created, do you want it to send it out for approval? And only after the approval, do you want to assign the technician? So all these are available in service request. Once the approval is done, now, let's say for an example, a request is created and it has been sent for approval and the approval action is done. So the next part is how or what is the SLA defined for service request. This is the third difference between the incident template and service template. The incident template will have a global SLA, which is based on priority of that specific incident. Let's say if it is an P1, P2, P3 priority incident, Based on the priority, you will define a service level agreement and it will apply for all the incident templates. But for services, we cannot define in such a way. For a software installation, it might vary based on like 2 or 3 days. But for an onboarding process, it might take more than 5 to 7 days to complete. So we cannot define a global SLA for all the service requests. So that is why we have an option of adding specific SLA based on each and every template which is available for service catalog alone. So you can associate single SLAs for each and every catalog. Now let's take a quick look at where this SLA is configured. Again, jumping back to admin, service level agreement, you have it for both incident and service. So let's jump to service. You can create new SLA. So you can just add the response time and resolution time. So here you will not find any criteria for defining the SLA. Now, if we go back to admin tab, search for service level agreement once again, navigate to incident service level, add new SLA, you will have a criteria here. So this is what the main difference here is. So when comparing the service level agreement for an service request, you will not have any criteria to define as it is not global for all the templates, whereas this is global for all the templates. So you will just define a priority, a category or level, and then create an service level agreement which is published for all the incident templates. Now, once you have all the SLAs associated, you can jump back or you can directly assign an SLA from here. So you will see how many templates are associated. If you want to associate a new template, you can directly do it from here. Now let's jump back to the service catalog so that we can continue from the template. Quickly going to employee administration, employee onboarding. Yeah. Now we have configured the approval details. We know how to configure a service level agreement for a template. And we have two other topics here. One is checklist and the other one is task. Task is nothing but breaking down the huge task into small activities which can be assigned to other technicians and finish it up so that the entire request can complete. When you compare employee onboarding, onboarding is going to be a huge task. It is not like one technician can complete it. It is going to be like multiple technicians are getting involved and then they can complete it. So what we can do is we can break down that huge task into small activities and we can create dependencies between these tasks. So we have three tasks here: add the user to AD, provisioning the software, and provisioning the hardware. So we can create dependencies between these tasks. So after the completion of adding the user, you will provision the software and provision the hardware, and then you will provision the software. So you can just click on the activities. Like, let's say I do not want it. So I will just go with disabling it, removing the dependency, and add it. So you can change the dependency however you want, and you can streamline the task flow. So it is going to be like add the user, or is it going to be like provisioning the hardware and then add the user and then provisioning the software? So you can decide. So the task will be triggered only on the workflow that you have configured over here. So now after completion of hardware, the software and adding user to AD task will be triggered. So make sure you have the right dependencies added and then you save it so that the application will trigger the right task. Now the final task is checklist. So after the completion of the request, let's say I have completed all the tasks, I have given the requirements that is needed for a new user. Now I have some few points that I do not want to forget before closing the request. So those can be added as a checklist for the technician to complete, and then you can close the request. Being an onboarding form, as said, this involves multiple people and departments. We have HR team checklist here, like sending do and don'ts email to the user, sending policy documents, reviewing the previous org documents. So those are some small checklists that we can show to the technicians so that they can check it and then close the request. To streamline the process more, what we can do is, if you navigate back to the admin tab, you have something called as request closure rules. Over here, you have an option of mandating the checklist and mandating the task. So only after the completion of checklist or task, the application will let you to close the request. So this way you are streamlining the process for the completion of each and every service request. So far we have configured the service catalog and we have defined the template and we have also configured the workflow. Now we have done all the automations together. Now this will for sure end up the free up the end user space and the technician time. And finally, notification rules. Whatever that you have done within the application, let's say a request is created, uh, a user is going to be onboarded, or is it going to be a new software installation, you have to inform the end user and the technician on what is going on within the request. So for that, we have something called as notification rules. Again, admin, you can type notification rules. We have all the list, an entire list of pre-canned notifications available within the application. So when a request is created, if someone is sending out an reply, if the request is resolved, for all those aspects, a notification will be triggered to the user end. And we have approval notifications, we have technician notifications, and if you want to modify those contents, we have the template readily available. You can just customize the template that you want, choose whatever variable that you need, and you can send it out to the user or technician. In case if the requirement is something different, I want to trigger a custom notification to a user or a technician, we do have an option for it. We have something called as custom trigger. So again, it would be admin custom trigger. You will navigate to this option, add a new trigger. So you have something called as notification action. You can go with execute on created, edited. You can go with choosing any option. If the approval status is approved, I have sent out an approval email to a specific stakeholder. Once the approval process is done, I want to generate a custom notification to a specific email address. That can be done. You have multiple options available here. You can make use of it and send out a custom notification to the end user. So we are done with creating a service request template, publishing it to the user, and we have seen how the automation flows in the application, like how to define the task, how to create a checklist, how to define the entire approval workflow. We have seen all that. Now, what we have seen so far is a quick recap here. We have already dragged and dropped and created a service request template, and we have showed you how to build a new self-service portal, and make sure that, as I said, on how to define a service category, please follow the 6-step process on gathering information, defining the fields, and make request forms more dynamic. And you can also make use of the field and form rules. So we have an approval system which can go up to 5 level of approvals, and we also have known how to like set the service level agreement for service request and the difference between the incident and service template. Also the triggering of task. Make sure we are on track by using checklist. And as we saw, make sure the end user and the stakeholder who is involved is being notified on whatever action is performed within the request. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining and staying with us for the entire time. Let's hope for the next episode. Please join and support us for the other masterclass videos as well. Thank you so much. Bye bye.